Welcome to The Driven Entrepreneur, where we sit down with visionaries, trailblazers, and entrepreneurs and discover why and how they do what they do. We'll get the backstory, plus plenty of life and business lessons along the way. Here's your host, Matt Brauning.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by my very own NLP practitioner course. I've been teaching neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, for nearly 15 years. It is the most powerful tool for communication on the planet, and it can be yours today. For a very limited time, I'm giving away my entire NLP course workbook for free. Go to nlpwithmatt.com. All the patterns, all the tools, and the techniques of NLP in the complete course workbook, the same one that we use to teach our live certification classes, yours free. nlpwithmatt.com. Get it today. Let's get back to the show. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome back to The Driven Entrepreneur. Hey, if you're listening to this show, we're right in the midst of some pretty crazy times right now. And, between staying safe, between kind of pivoting, and a lot of us in business, we're working out what our business looks like and how things shift and change right now, temporary or even permanent for some people. I want to bring you some relevant interviews and some relevant topics and concepts that are going to help you in your business today, right now. I have a lot of interviews stacked that are ready to come out that I think are just incredible entrepreneurial interviews. But I put this one to the top of the line because my guest today is a cruise operator. And I think, how relevant right now. We're talking about industries that have been impacted and shift. My guest is Johannes Voelkner. I'm going to try to not butcher his name. He's calling in from Spain right now. He started out in 2010 as a digital nomad. He loved the lifestyle, but felt lonely as he had trouble connecting with like-minded people on the road. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in the digital and online marketing space, you relate to that. So he started one of the first Facebook groups for digital nomads. And we're going to define what that even means in the first place. And from there, he actually launched a cruise business out of his Facebook group. And we're going to get into that story quite a bit. He gets out of the winter and enjoys the ships. However, the ships are docked right now. So he has plenty of time, unfortunately, but fortunately for us in a way, to hang out and have this conversation. So without any further ado, Johannes, are you there? And welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here, Matt, today.
Yeah, thanks for making the time. And I just want to first, my condolences to your current business model, obviously. How are you doing? Are you staying safe? How is Spain right now?
So right now I'm actually in lockdown. This means that I am only allowed to leave the house if I want to go to the supermarket or I need to go to the hairdresser, which is not so relevant for me, or I need to go to the hospital to check if I'm infected. So it's a bit of a strange time here now, but I try to see the positive in it, and I try to do workouts every day and try to just buy healthy food and make the best out of this unfortunate situation. Right.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Just as a side note, the buying healthy food. I think it's fascinating to me that you go to the grocery store and beans are gone and canned food is gone, which, that's what people do when they freak out, and toilet paper is gone. But then there's it's so I was scared that when I first went to the store, I wonder if anything's going to be left, and everything's there. And there's organic bananas and there's avocados and there's salad and there's everything good and fresh is there and plentiful. And life is continuing on. And so many industries are continuing on. So I don't think we have we don't have something to be scared of, but we do have something that is making a major change. And I think, whether it's 9/11 or a virus like this, or, a major political shift, even that, those are the top two items that I think have changed industry more than anything in the last 2 decades. Well, I want to get that kind of elephant out of the room for a second. So you are in the cruise business. That's your main staple of income and what you do. Before we get into the story behind it, which I want to do, I just want to say first, what are you doing right now as a pivot? I know you're going to be finding ways Are you finding ways to generate income? Are you finding different ways to serve clients? Or are you just kind of in a holding pattern and hoping this thing clears up?
Yeah, so basically what happened was that we were going to have a conference on a cruise ship that was scheduled in about 3 weeks. And the cruise was going to leave from Colombia and go to Portugal. And we were like very uncertain about the whole situation. So all these travel bans came up, and we were like, okay, this is not going to work. And people started to get really worried. So we canceled the trip. And then also now the whole cruise line like that we were using, they also canceled operation until May. And that was super stressful, to decide this and think, we put a lot of work into the trips that we're organizing. We had some commitment with the cruise line and, figuring all these things out. But in the end, I was very happy that we made this decision already a while ago, and that, now, I mean, we kind of organize this trip, but I can, think about the way of how we're running the business. We can fine tune a lot of processes. I think that everyone, like, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're not short of things that you can actually work on. And now I have time to focus on things that I was actually not even able to do for the last 4 years. So while this is super unfortunate, I try to see the best way in this, best possible situation, and hope that this gets better soon.
Yeah, seeing the best in it is something that, it's not about like ignoring what's going on, but certainly, when I've done this in smaller, ways. You find yourself, you're working your butt off, and then all of a sudden you get the flu for 3 days and you're home, and it's like, well, you know what? I guess it was a forced rest, and I didn't want to, but I got to rest, or I got to work on my book, or I got to whatever
Yeah.
it is, right? Even catch up on Netflix. It's like there's something that can come out of bad things that can become good. So have you found a pivot, or are you just holding tight until things shift and change, and then you're going to get right back into probably what you've been doing? Or is it just in a big unknown space?
Actually, one thing that we're going to do most probably, and I'm just talking to different people, like reassessing this idea, is we're going to start a network for Nomads, a global network with live events. And it's something I've been wanting to do like a long time, to make it even easier, not just go on the cruise ship, but just connect. And but it's something where you need like a few months to plan this out, and to do these, like, set up this private network for these people. And that's something that I'm working on now. And I never really had the time to focus on something like this, and now I'm locked at home. There's not much I can do, and I find this more interesting than watching TV. So I basically work on some part that I was never even able to focus on, because we were just gonna go from organizing cruise to cruise, and then there's always some things you need to fix or you need to do. And now we kind of like paused the whole thing, and I have time to work on things that were always on my agenda, but I could never really do.
I'm doing a lot of the same thing, and I'm glad to hear that, because again, it might. We just did an episode a couple of days ago talking about ways to continue to make money as an entrepreneur during the crisis and during this time. And one of those ways is not necessarily immediate revenue, but you're doing something. You're working on setup revenue right now. You're working on setting something up that's going to be in the near future that you wouldn't have had time to do. So good on you for that, man. Hey, I want to kind of, speaking of pivot, I want to pivot into how before you got into this, growing up, what area in the world did you grow up? I know you're in Spain now. I got a Germany address for you. Where did you grow up, and what was life as far as entrepreneurialism when you were growing up? Did you have a lemonade stand as a kid? Were your parents entrepreneurs? Were you expected to absolutely be into a certain industry? Tell me a little bit about the kind of the childhood of Johannes.
Yeah. So actually, I grew up, in a small town in Germany, and my parents were not in the entrepreneurship at all. Actually, my dad was a minister, or is a minister, retired now. So I was just, growing up there, going to the same place on vacation every year. And I really wanted to, see the world. So when the school was finished, I went to Australia and I just traveled. I just really started to love traveling. So I was traveling a lot around the world. Eventually, I ended up in South Africa and I studied there. And I met my ex fiance, and so I wanted to continue to live in Cape Town. And there it was really, really hard for me to find a job that was paid well. And I realized, the only way how I can make a good living is if I start my own business, and if to have the freedom that I can also go home and visit my friends in Germany, I need to have something that is online. And
And how old are you at this point when you're deciding this?
I was like 24 years old.
Okay, so nice and young.
Yeah. No, this was 27 or something. Yeah. So a little bit older. I was 24 when I went to study in South Africa, and then I did some internship, but I always wanted to study tourism, and that was my thing. But I realized, I need to do something online, and now I end up doing tourism for people who work online. So it's good.
Wow. So you start doing something online. Did you have any other online businesses that you tried and failed, or tried and had small success before you did the online tourism?
Yes, I did. So basically, my first job was being a virtual assistant because I had no clue about working online. And the book that inspired me to work online and try this way in South Africa was this 4-hour work week. And Tim Ferriss was talking about virtual assistants. And I thought, I'm in Germany, I'm in South Africa, so I don't know anything, so I can just be a virtual assistant by myself and get paid to learn, right? And so I got very, very fast. I was making more money than I was at a tourism job I had in Cape Town at that time. And then the thing that happened is that I looked at this 4-hour work week, which is basically saying, you need to have a muse and then you can build up some kind of online business. I didn't have any idea what I could do, but my mom had a business that was selling like cards online for therapy. And I did the right thing without knowing it. And I learned a little bit of PPC, and we made some sales for these cards. And then these cards worked really, really well. And even until today.
Wait, what kind of cards are these?
It was like, my mom, she had a depression, and she did, whenever she didn't feel good, she like things that she learned in therapy or in books or whatever, she just wrote it down like as little affirmations. And then the therapist saw this, and they said like, oh, this is really nice. And it gave my mom the idea to just print these cards and sell them. And
so like affirmation cards, people bought them just in a pack or one at a time?
Yes,
and
in a pack, like 72 cards.
Wow.
And
so you're selling card decks almost, and you said you're using PPC, so you're doing pay-per-click. Is it all through Google? And
yes, it was Google.
Advertising affirmation cards and starting to get some traction.
Exactly. That was the model. And then I figured that if I target therapists, they would buy this, and then their clients would use these cards as well. And we have sold a lot of this, and there are thousands of people now using these cards. And these cards allowed me to then, when the relationship in South Africa was over, to go and travel and see the world and run. Really, I took this 4-hour work week very serious. So I was traveling a lot and just running this business on the side.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds almost exactly like what Tim's describing in that early book. Yeah. I remember I read that and it changed my life, and I thought, man, why am I work? It's like, why am I working so much? And even Tim, he'll say he doesn't work 4 hours a week, and he doesn't get anywhere near that. But certainly, it's possible. So now you start making money as a virtual assistant. You start making money doing online advertising for these cards. You're making a physical, probably digital program or products, and you're selling stuff online. So now you know it's possible. Now you know that you can do this from South Africa, from Germany, or wherever you want to go. What did you have any other ventures into the online marketing world or into the business world before you got into this next bit?
No. I was just like, I did this. I was like quite happy that it worked, and and then I was like, okay, I want to start my own, my own ideas. And eventually, but well, first I wanted to travel because I was really like, we had a breakup, in South Africa, and I really didn't want to be in Cape Town anymore. And so I just started to go kite surfing actually in the Philippines and work from there. And then I went to South America and I traveled all over. And then I found, like I was traveling and running the business. And then I met a lot of people, but never really anyone who was working online as well. And I really wanted to have this interaction or like, hang out with people longer than just meeting them in a hostel or something. And so then I wrote a book with the best places. It was a travel guide for people who work online. It was an ebook, and I tried to promote it, but it didn't really work. But out of that, I then started the first Facebook group for digital nomads because I really wanted to, connect to more people who would also be traveling. Like now, there's a lot of people all over the world traveling and running their online business. But when I was doing it, there were like 3 blogs who were writing about this.
Yeah, this is crazy how quickly this has blown up. I mean, I just came back from a pretty big podcast conference put on by Podcast Magazine about a week ago, just before everything was really like going nutso.
Yeah.
And they're out of I was one of the 40 icons of influence that are podcasters represented there. They were there to book guests and meet people. 2 of them had something to do with digital nomading, essentially. The traveling entrepreneur. I think one was like the digital nomad. And they were both relatively new, but had taken off like wildfire. So I know this idea is incredible. There's a ton of people who want this, not just the millennial generation. It's like every generation. There's the expat generation. That's not really a fair thing to say, but when I think of the expat generation, I think of people currently maybe in the 40s, 50s, even 60s that have created that life of they've already said, I want to move and live somewhere else. So they got to figure out something new. And then you have the millennial generation and you have the Gen Z generation where they're like coming up instantly going, wait a minute, I don't have to have a job. I don't have to live in my small town or whatever. So you started this Facebook group, I believe it was 2014. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's my point, I guess, is 6 years ago, almost 7, there was no one doing this really. So your Facebook group is called Global Digital Nomad Network. And so guys, if you go to this, check this out. It's incredible. You have like 47 something thousand members in the group, Global Digital Nomad Network. And you can go see Johannes's group. And if you are a digital nomad or you want to be a digital nomad, I think you know what that means. Go check out that group. It's super active. Again, it's one of the oldest groups on Facebook about this whole topic. And you have to, I'm looking through it. You have some really engaged people, some engaged posts and threads, and people helping people supporting each other, coming up with new ideas. And then, of course, people that are traveling and sharing the stories and everything. When you first started that, did you have any idea how far it would go?
No, I had no clue. I mean, I just, basically what happened was that I started this ebook and the ebook didn't really work, right, to sell. So I invited everyone who bought my ebook, my little travel guide, which was like 130 people. And I invited them all into this Facebook group. And after a while, I had like 500 people who wanted to be in this group, but only these 130 members. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make it free for everyone because there's something out there. And then it was just growing really, really fast since then.
Can I stop you right there and ask? So you said I have almost 500 people that want to be in the group. Can I just kind of break down a little bit of the pattern of, because I think there's power in Facebook groups and there's ways to do it right and ways to do it wrong. And I see a lot of people, like I've been added to groups so many times over the years that's just horrendous and like not a group I want to be a part of. So can we talk a little bit about the kind of do's and don'ts of a Facebook group if you want to grow a real authentic community and use it as a launching pad, as you said, you did for your business?
So I think, a lot of people, they're starting groups where, there's already 20,000 groups in the same market. And there's really no need to start another group for entrepreneurs or another group for just digital nomads. But there's still like a need to start a Facebook group for digital nomads who are maybe right now in Costa Rica or who are in different places around the world. So it's about looking into the thing that is like actually needed right now and where people actually really need the information. So like a lot of the nomads who have been on our cruises or whatsoever, when they go now somewhere and they don't find any Facebook group there, they just start it themselves, right? And then they provide the information. So you need to start some Facebook group that is like really relevant and that is not already where there's not already thousands of people doing the same.
That's really good advice. I just wanted to stop there just for a quick second. Like, again, right now, if you said, I want to start a travel group or I want to start a parenting group, it's similar in the podcasting space where if you go too vague and too general, it's like, well, there's no way you're going to be able to dominate that and be in that. I have a friend named, shout out to Brett Gregory, who does incredible Facebook ads and Facebook agency. And one of his claim to fames, and rightly so, is he had the biggest yoga Facebook group in all of Facebook with millions of people in it. And he started that again years before a time when you could say, let's just make a yoga Facebook group. Now, if you tried to make a yoga Facebook group, it's not going to work. So to Johannes' point, you get down to the detail enough. Maybe it's not just digital nomads in general, like he did 6 years ago, but you say it's digital nomads out of Costa Rica because of the tax rate. And we know a lot of influencers are going down there. Or you have digital nomads in Iceland, or I don't know what it is. But at a certain level of detail, now you have this audience that is actually excited about this and is already looking for that. But if you go too detailed, female digital nomads in Iceland who have dogs and like to go ice fishing, you might get so detailed that you have one member in your Facebook group and it's you.
Yeah.
So you started something a little more general, but it wasn't just entrepreneurs. It was digital entrepreneurs who want to travel, obviously, digital nomads. And where did those first, when you said 500 people, I want to circle back to that real quick. 500 people said, I want to be a part of this. Was that just from finding it organically online, or was this from you're doing marketing efforts and talking to people? Were you initially charging for your 130 people and then you switched it to a free model? Can you talk a little bit about the early growth?
Initially, I sold the ebook and then I decided to, so I had the ebook initially and then I just invited everyone who bought the ebook. And then I thought, people are more likely to buy the ebook if I have a Facebook group connected to it. But the ebook was so cheap that, it was like $10 ebook and the whole model didn't really work. So I just thought I might as well just make the Facebook group for free. So and I did not do any marketing. Like I never made marketing really for the group. One thing I do have though is that I also had a website which is called webworktravel.com. And this is where I had a little bit of a blog and I wrote about it. So from there, I did also market the group. And I mean, now this ranks really well for the term digital nomad because, again, I was the first one to write the article, How to Become a Digital Nomad. That was like also 4 or 5 years ago. And now like there was a recent Google update, so it went down. But that was like one other key thing where I got some people. But I never did, besides that, much marketing or anything.
So it sounds like, in a way, I don't know if we can prove it or not, but I think in a way we could credit you as sort of the godfather of digital nomading, like creating that term even, because if you're writing blogs and doing groups when no one's using that yet, this is kind of special, Johannes. I'm sitting here with the creator of digital nomad culture. This is a pretty cool thing.
There were some people before me who coined this term. I would say like they had like forums, paid forums.
Yes.
So what I realized basically, so the thing was, I also wanted to start a paid forum. And this is also something that I'm, considering to do now because I think that we can provide a lot more value. But at that time, my thought was that, I had just bought one online course on conversion optimization and it was really expensive. And this guy who at this time, when I was deciding whether I should start a free Facebook group or an online forum, that guy, even though we paid so much money, people were not using this online forum so much. And then later on he said like, oh, by the way, there was also a Facebook group that we had. And then I see, and he didn't really want to share it initially. Now people sell super expensive courses. and they would still use like a Facebook group or a Slack chat or something. And when I saw that, even though people are spending so much money on a course and they're not using these groups anymore because they prefer to hang out on Facebook, in that moment I decided like, okay, I'm going to start a free group and take it from there.
Yeah, that's outstanding. A couple quick more things, and then we'll jump into the current industry too. When you went from say 130 to 500 to the next 1,000, what were some of the best growth secrets to go from there to an engaged, which is really important, 47,000 in your group? You talked about writing your travel blog, and instead of plugging your book, I'm sure you plugged your book sometimes, but instead of directing all traffic to a book or to something else, you directed everything to this free Facebook group. What were some other strategies you used organically? Did you use any paid? What did you do to really grow this over the years?
So a Facebook group grows by being very active, and then it's being shown to other people. That's how I believe our group is growing still. Like at the moment, it grows by like 300 members each week, 100 to 300 or something. It's quite like a very natural growth. It just goes the same way. And now I want to make it actually a little bit more active and a little bit more interesting. But the thing that I did initially to grow it is you just keep it active. If Facebook sees that you have a small group and it's active and people are, using it and they're commenting there, then it will show it to other people who are either in the same town or to friends who could be interested in it, because maybe you already have like 6-7 friends who are in this group, and then it's basically automatically growing. But you need to keep it active. Like if you don't ask any question or anything, no one will ask to join this group. So that's what I did. I was asking like, oh, what is the best backpack for nomads? How do you stay productive on the road? And like, especially in the beginning, because there were not so many groups around this, like we discussed every topic in detail, what they do. And so all you can do is like, you can look at other groups or in other countries, or, what are questions other people ask, like on location nomad groups or in your topic, and then just ask these questions and keep it active like this, like keep the members there. And then after a while, they would start doing their own posts. Now I'm active again on this group because we canceled this cruise, and I want to like reconnect a little bit with the community there. But in the last year, I did like not so much there. And it was just, it still continues to grow, and there's like so much momentum. There's a lot of spam that people post, but still also some really good things. So
you're some of that for sure. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you, so you gave a couple examples of questions, and I think this is incredibly relevant because I watch my friends and other marketers and entrepreneurs on Facebook, whether it's on their pages, their profiles, or in their groups. And one of the things people try to do is, they're asking questions, right? They're like, hey, what's your favorite movie? Or what's this? Or what's that? And they're trying to have this balance of, I'm the mentor, so to speak, right? I'm the expert because it's my group. And then they're trying to sell programs, products, and services out of the group. So you have this like on one side being the teacher mentor, so to speak. I'm the expert kind of. And then I want to share resources with y'all. But then on the other side, it's being, hey, this is just a group where I'm kind of moderating, facilitating, and you're all experts too. What I loved about your questions you asked, as simple as they were, what kind of backpack do you like? What I felt was it put the expertise onto the group. And, so like when I see something like that and someone says, hey, can you give feedback on this book cover? Or, hey, do you have what's your favorite trick when you get to a hotel or whatever? I'm much more likely to stop. It's like some little part of my reptilian brain wants to be cool or wants to be unique or special or something and be accepted by people. So if I want to provide that value, I'm much more likely to answer that question and share my cool little backpack trick. And then, rather than answering the question of what's my greatest struggle or my greatest challenge right now. Am I reading too much into that? Or is that sort of a question that you do where you put the expertise more onto them? Or do you just ask whatever questions?
I never thought about it like this, but it is, in a way, it is true because, when I started out, I had no more clue than anyone else in the group about this whole topic, right?
Okay.
So I'm not even like, wouldn't even see myself as the expert. I just was the one who connected everyone, right? And I still think the same. Even like one thing that I always try to do, and I think that is a important tip, is like I'm trying to be very neutral on things. I'm not trying, to get into the trouble. I'm not trying to be the one who tells other people what they need to do. But I just say like, okay, here, these are the things. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. But I'm not the one who makes opinions. Like people can make their own opinions. And this also with organizing, a cruise for sometimes over 500 people on the same ship, I'm always trying to be very neutral. Like I'm not trying, like unless I'm like 100% sure that this is the thing to do or someone is really not acting the way. Otherwise, and this has helped me a lot with something like this, not to actually polarize so much. It depends a little bit on what you do and what is your profession, but sometimes with these types of groups, that is a good strategy, I would say.
Very, very good. I love that. Okay, so can we talk about launching a cruise business out of the Facebook group? I said we get back to that, and I want to kind of, as we wind down here in our time together, I want to get into that. Were there any missteps along the way? So you have this group, and you have this interactive group, and you're growing it, and people appreciate it, and it's all good. Now you say, I'm going to launch this idea. Hey, who'd be interested in a cruise? Can you talk about sort of the ways that you introduced the idea, and then what went well, and were there any missteps in launching this cruise business out of your group?
So this entire launch, from starting this cruise to actually making it a good business, took 2 years, 2 or 3 years even. The reason is why I'm saying this is, initially it was just an idea. Like, so I wanted to go to Brazil for the winter to work from there online. And then I saw that there was like a very fairly cheap cruise that was going from Spain to Brazil across the Atlantic, because all cruise ships are doing these repositioning cruises where they just need to move the ship, to the Caribbean for the winter from Europe or things like this. And I saw this trip and I was like, wow, this would be amazing, because, before that I was traveling in South America and I was always found it always very hard. Like I go to Rio, I go to Colombia, every time I need to meet new people. So would be cool to go with a lot of nomads together, meet them on the ship, and then when I arrive in South America, I could go to Rio or to different places, and they would already all be working there, So we kind of do a little bit of networking on the boat. So what I did is, that was my idea when I saw this cruise, we can go together and then it will be a nicer time in South America. And so I just said, let's go. And I posted this offer for this super cheap cruise, and then I had some pretty famous nomad friends who also shared this. But basically, after 3 weeks, we had over 100 people who had booked this cruise. But I still had no business, right? So I just saw people love this idea, and we're gonna meet on a cruise ship, but I didn't sell it or anything. If I would have started to negotiate with a cruise line, to organize these tickets, I would have already stopped there. And so this was really just a little of a guerrilla meetup on a cruise ship, and people loved this. And then I was like, okay, now I can turn this into a business. And I actually, 1 week before we had this first cruise, I started a website called Nomad Cruise. We put the logo there, and then we sold some T-shirts. That's how I made money. By just selling.
You sold T-shirts. I love it.
Yeah, but these T-shirts are now if you look, you go to Bali, you go to many places around the world where these nomads are, you will see this logo everywhere from people who have been on this ship. It's kind of it's like a little nomad logo. We don't even say the word of the cruise, just very tiny in the background, but it has worked pretty well.
How much risk was there on your first cruise? Because as you're describing it, it sounds like, I love this idea of kind of doing almost a meetup on a cruise. Did you have room blocks, or did I think I misheard that? Did you just say, hey, this cruise ship is going from here to here. Tickets are really cheap. We can all get on. Who's in? And then everyone just booked their own stuff. So did you have zero risk besides your own? I love that. Okay. So then you proved the concept worked because 100 people said that they're in. The
Yeah.
next time, the second, third time around, did you start to add a little more structure? Did you put
Yeah.
yourself into the game a little more? Can you talk about the evolution of it?
Yeah. So first time was just a meetup. The second time I said like, okay, let's make this cool and let's do a little bit more talks and conference. And we ended up having 200 people actually. The first one was 100. The second one was 200 people. And I was running this pretty much by myself. And then I realized on the cruise how naive I actually was, like to organize, like bring 200 people as now being the real organizer on the ship. And then we realized, we need to make this better. We need to give people better ways to connect and whatsoever. So from the third cruise, and now we have in total organized 10. From the third cruise, we started to like really think about the program, what we're going to do on the ship. And I mean, now it's an amazing way of networking. We're doing like Shark Tank shows, talent shows, uh, talks in the morning, and like really briefing of speakers, speaker dinners and stuff. But this was always like a progress. Like each cruise we did a little bit more. And my thing was just that I realized, the more people you bring, the less easy it is for people to actually feel part of this community or of this group. If you organize an event for 1,000 people, it doesn't really feel like a community anymore, right? It's just like 1,000 people going there. And so we wanted to do the best way to bring more people on board, but also make people really connected, that no one, goes on their cabins and feels lonely or because they can't integrate into the group. So we did a lot of networking and like give, make people do their own shows, be part of this whole cruise. It's like a whole skill sharing experience.
Man, that's outstanding. Well, I love that, and congratulations on all the success. Certainly pray that things get back to normal, and then even better very, very soon for you. I would love to be part of that next cruise because that sounds awesome. And anyone out there right now, if you're listening, of course you're listening to this, but check out the Facebook group Global Digital Nomad Network. It's Global Digital Nomad Network. You'll see Johannes Voelkner is started the group. It's about 6 years old, and there's about 47,000 some people. Go check it out on Facebook, and then follow Johannes _Voelkner at Instagram, and you can see all of his cool cruise pictures and lifestyle and everything else in there. Johannes, final question for you, and I'll let you get out of here is, and of course, nomadcruise.com. We'll talk about that a little bit more too. Of all of your entrepreneur and nomad journey, if you could change anything along the way of what you've done and how you've done it, what would you change? Or would you leave it all the same?
I would think less and do more, right? Like, because the best way to learn is to actually, just do it, right? Like, just try things and like fail fast. And sometimes you lose quite a bit, but the best way you can read as many books as you want in the moment when you need to sell a lot of tickets, or you're running into a cruise problem like what we had right now when we need to cancel. That's when you learn crisis management, or that's when you learn sales, you learn marketing, right? Like, sometimes you put yourself into situations and just do it, but like do things, like push yourself, but like always kind of, don't try to organize an event for 1,000 people if you've never done one for 100 or 500 before, right? But just do it, right? Like, and push yourself constantly, and don't think too much.
Don't think too much. I think we all could use that advice. Thank you so much, Johannes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, that's the show for this week. I hope that was interesting and valuable. Again, we just recorded this a couple of days ago, so I'm putting this out right now because I think it's so relevant to talk about pivoting in business right now. And I hope you got a lot of value bombs out of Johannes and out of certainly someone who is running a business of cruises and what an industry to pivot in. Remember, check out Johannes Voelkner on his Facebook group, Global Digital Nomad Network. And check out, of course, nomadcruise.com, because look, at some point, cruises will be up and going again. Right now, in the moment, if you're listening to this as it's dropping live, you might not want to go on a boat. But hey, you might be finding this episode in our on demand on Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher. And if you're listening to this on demand, It could be a year from now. And you're like, what are you even talking about? What crisis? I want to go on a cruise. So check out nomadcruise.com. I hope I get to go on one of these Nomad ventures as well. I'm very excited. So my thanks to Johannes Voelkner today. Hey, that's it for me, Matt Brauning. Make sure you follow me at social media if you want to see some, I always do live stories. I do live podcast episodes and live radio recordings from time to time. So if you jump on and follow me at Matt Brauning, you'll get notified when I go live, and you can actually be part of a podcast episode. Thanks for listening. Get out there this weekend. Well, I guess stay in this weekend, but crush it and get ahead in business while you have all this time. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.